Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all my newest #1 comics that I read for the week and I deem them worthy or not worthy. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content and you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, why don't you guys hit that subscribe button? So with that being said, let's get started with this week's discussion on the newest #1 comics. Iron Man Annual Issue 1, the continuation of Contest of Chaos. Now, you guys know, if you watched my last Worthy Ones, that I said I probably wasn't going to continue this, but I forgot that I put this Iron Man issue on my FOC because I am an Iron Man collector. I've read this entire series so far, so I'm like, why not get the annual? And it could potentially continue a good story. Unfortunately for me, the story does not get any better. The artwork in this book is okay. I mean, Storm looks pretty good. The colors are bright and vibrant here. There is a lot of action, but in this comic book, there's actually almost too much action because they don't take enough time to actually really progress the plot until the very end of this story. Now, what happens in this story is you see Iron Man and Storm come together because they have these voices in their head and they start going into this mine shaft or whatever it is, and these crystals are telling them bad things that happened in their past and they're being manipulated to do battle against each other. That's pretty much the entire issue. They wind up escaping this mine shaft, and then instead of integrating what happened with Spider-Man and how he's continuing his investigation with Jessica Jones, they make that as a secondary story and just touch on it very briefly, maybe 2-3 pages. Let's see, we got 3 pages of what happened in the last issue about, again, Jessica and Spider-Man investigating and going to Clea to find out if there is a solution or what's going on with Agatha. That's about it, man. This book is not worthy. I mean, for sure, I'm going to do anything in my power not to read the next part to this particular story because it's pointless. I mean, this was just absolutely a bunch of nothing. It felt like a bunch of filler, and you got 3 pages that continued what's going on in the main story. This book is a D- for me. I would not recommend you picking up this title. What If Dark Moon Knight? I love these newest What If titles from Marvel Comics. In fact, I've always loved What If titles. They take stories that you've known and loved from the past and change them up a little bit. It's always cool to see what they would do differently in different circumstances, right? So pretty cool stuff. This book takes place in Mark Spector Moon Knight issue 3. It's written by Erica Schultz and the artwork is done by Edgar Zalzar. The artwork is really well done in this book. I thought all the characters were drawn really well. They got great facial expressions. Action scenes were just balls to the wall throughout this entire comic book. We wind up getting to see Marlene in this comic, and she witnesses the death of Mark Spector. So it's kind of like, what if Marlene becomes basically the next Moon Knight, and she becomes Luminary. And I thought that was such a great story because what happens is you wind up getting to see her avenge Mark Spector's death and her father's death as well as she is trying to track down Bushman. Really great story. This book is definitely worthy. So if you have the cash to spend on this comic book, which is $5, I feel like it's a little bit pricey, I do see it being worthy in your eyes. So if I have to grade this comic, I'm going to grade this one a B+. It was just a fun Elseworlds tale, and if you're a fan of What If comics, this can go right in that collection. The Goal, written by Kelly Thompson, and the artwork is done by Martina de Lewis. I think that's how you say the name. The artwork in this comic is actually really, really well done. The characters' facial expressions are absolutely awesome, and you can see some of the pain, the anguish, and everything that's attached to these characters. And as you go along in this comic book, you learn about these main characters as they all have some kind of drama attached to them. what really showcased the artwork not only is the facial expressions, but the world that is presented to you here. Okay, and you get to see that. And when you see that for the first time, you're kind of just like, oh my gosh, where are they going to? You actually see it in the first page as well. Right? So this is the world as of right now. But you get to see this story being told, I think it was like 12 hours ago, and you get introduced to all the characters in this comic book, which are female teenagers. Now, what comes with these female teenagers? Well, teenage drama, okay? So what's happening is you wind up getting see these girls wake up early morning. It's like 3-something in the morning, and they were going to this mountain, this rock, and they're going to shoot this short film, and they have to do it early because that's when low tide is actually happening. And while all these girls are waking up and they're heading to their destination, you learn a little bit about each girl, which is cool because it is intriguing. You want to find more about their history, their past, what kind of makes them tick. Now, hopefully they do dive on everybody's story here a little bit more. Otherwise, it makes these characters like pointless, right? You want to introduce these little plot threads. As long as Kelly Thompson continues to do that character growth, then those plot threads are worth it. But you learn one has a missing brother, one has a mom's boyfriend who is like a wife beater, the other one is having an on again off again relationship with a boy. So they all have their little girl teenage drama stuff, which I'm fine with learning, again, as long as Kelly Thompson keeps continuing to develop these characters, okay? So what happens is you hear all that drama, all that stuff, and then all of a sudden these girls see this cave that's inside this particular big gigantic rock, and it's emitting light. So where do they go? They go towards that light. It's like a horror movie. Don't go where you hear the noise. Don't go where the monsters are. They go towards the light, and you wind up seeing them walk towards that light. And then what comes out on the other side is this. And as the reader, you're just kind of just like, oh shit. So are they going to go in this world? And yeah, absolutely. They're going to go in this world because one of the main characters feels like the missing brother is in this world lost somewhere. This book is definitely worthy. This is a great story from Kelly Thompson, and I feel like as long as she continues to develop the characters, I think this could be something special from her, and she also has to continue to develop that world, which I feel that there is no doubt in my mind that she will do that. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this book a solid A. I felt like there was a little bit too much drama right from the start, that she tried to pack in that all those story threads with all those girls instead of maybe individualizing a couple girls with the first issue and then the second issue. But that's kind of a nitpick for me. I am very intrigued where this thing is going to go. Uncanny Avengers issue 1. This has the Fall of X banner on it, and in fact in this Worthy Ones episode, that's what we're going to be talking about, is Fall of X stuff. So does it continue to deliver? Because I've pretty much enjoyed everything that has come out of Fall of X except Astonishing Iceman. So here we go, Uncanny Avengers issue 1. This is written by Jerry Duggan as well, so this has his name on it, and usually when you have writers that are writing that main story, you're gonna probably get a solid backup here. So that's why I wasn't hesitant on picking this particular book up. So the artwork here is done by Javier Garrón. So here is the artwork in this book. We get Ben Ulrich in here, who is the owner of the Daily Bugle, which was really cool. And the whole narration in this comic book is done by him on catching up with the reader on everything that is going on when it comes to Orcus, the mutants, and the formation of the Uncanny Avengers, and this new anti-mutant group led by a new version of Captain Krakoa, and they call themselves the New Mutant Liberation Front. And it has like Blob on there, Captain Krakoa, it's got Wildside, it's got these couple other twins in there as well. This book was pretty cool because, again, it caught the reader up You got to see other characters in here like Psylocke trying to rescue mutants and telling them to go in other places. And we get to see the strategy being formed with our newly formed team here. And the team consists of like Captain America, Deadpool, Psylocke, and Quicksilver. And also with some of the other characters as well that we've seen from the previous X-Men title also. I think Monet is part of that title also. And again, it was pretty entertaining. There is definitely a lot to read here because I feel like this book it goes out of its way to really trying to catch up the reader on everything that is going on. So I'm going to deem this book worthy. It wasn't like it was my favorite book of the week or favorite Fall of X book of the week, but I appreciate it going, hey, this is what's going on. We got a new team. We're trying to solve the problem of what's going on with Orcus, and now we have other people that we have to fight at the same time. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one probably a B-. It wasn't great. It wasn't perfect, but it was entertaining, and I'm curious to see where it goes from here. Dark X-Men issue 1. Now, I was really curious about this book, how Madeline Pryor actually forms this Dark X-Men team, right? So this book is written by Steve Fox, and Jonas Scarf is the artist on this comic book. The art is pretty good in it. I do like it. It's very dark at times, and I get why it's dark because obviously it's limbo, it's hell. A lot of the missions take place at nighttime and stuff like that. And obviously the artist here does a pretty good job at drawing Madeline Pryor. She looks nice, and it's a nice book to look at. Just a little dark for my taste at times, right? This book consists of quite a few mutants here on her team. It's Madeline Pryor, Havoc, Zero, Implate, Azazel, Gambit, Archangel, Maggot, Gimmick, who is the newest mutant recruited on this team. You get to see her being captured by Madeline Pryor. I shouldn't say captured, but I should say recruited by Madeline Pryor, and I think she's introduced in Marvel Voices this particular week. And then Albert. So we really get to see how Alex is by Maddie's side no matter what, because there's a lot going on to run her embassy, right? And she is aware of what's happened in the gala and how all the mutants gotten killed. And she explains to Alex in this comic book that it wasn't a mass mutant extinction event. There was only a handful of mutants that were killed, and a lot of the other ones wound up going into other places. So what does Madeline Pryor do? She tries to find mutants out there that they can recruit and make it part of her team. Now, the one character they wind up finding is that girl Gimmick, and I think her name was Carmen, if I stand corrected. And then you get to see how her own father betrays her in the story. He calls Orcus and says, I have a mutant, and then winds up taking her away or whatever it is. Or maybe it was his daughter's friend. Whatever the case, she gets taken by Orcus, and then you wind up seeing Maddie Pryor's people rescue her. You come across this android Wolverine, which I don't know, I guess it's going to be part of their team or not. I'm not sure. And then for some reason at the end of this book, we wind up seeing this this demon-like, I don't know, what is that? Madeline Pryor or whatnot? It's kind of weird. And then in the second part of this story, you wind up seeing how the embassy has taken shape or form since Madeline Pryor has put it in New York. And I thought that was kind of cool, and it gets introduced to some of the players that are going to be with Madeline Pryor through this series and whatnot. So yeah, it was kind of cool, and they touched on Ben Reilly for a second in that, which seemed a little bit out of place as well. Will that go forward in this title? I'm not sure. I'm going to deem this book worthy. This wasn't the strongest Fall of X book that I've read because I felt it was a little jumpy at places. You couldn't make out certain things that were going on because it was so dark. But the story did seem intriguing. We got that weird demon-like creature there at the end. I don't know if the Wolverine android is with them or without them. It just seemed a little confusing where everyone stood on this particular team. So I am definitely going to give it an issue, but I'm going to grade this one a C+. plus. So if you have the money and you're following the Fall of X stuff, pick this one up. Let's see where it goes. Alpha Flight issue 1. Now, I was never a fan of Alpha Flight. I owned that first issue, maybe read a handful of other issues when I was younger, but couldn't get attached to any of the characters. So when I saw this, I'm like, all right, why not check it out? It's a new #1. Maybe I might like it. Again, not knowing that that Fall of X banner was attached to it. So it's a spin-off book. So I'm like, well, at least it's attached to what's going on, okay? This book is actually written by Ed Brisson. The artwork is done by Scott Galawowski. The artwork's good. I like it. I think the colors are nice. The panel layouts are great. I thought there were some solid action scenes in this comic as well. We get introduced to this new mutant, which is obviously going to be maybe a major player going forward. And you know what I thought was very good as well? The white pages in this comic book were very informative because you wound up getting introduced to Roger Box Jr., who is the son of Roger Box Sr., who was part of Alpha Flight back in the day. So I like when these info dump pages give you something worthwhile to add to the story, right? And we also get to know more about that new mutant that was introduced in this book as well towards the very end. So you got to know his name, what his occupation is, and things like that. So again, those weren't waste of pages in case you were wondering when it came to this story. So overall story, what was it about? Well, we get Alpha Flight, who used to work with the mutants, are introduced as Department H's or Canada's defender against the first line of defense against mutant threat they face today, which is insane, right? You're kind of thinking, oh my God, right? And you get people throwing shit at them, calling them sellouts and stuff like that. And then we get the character that introduces the new Box Sentinel. So it's a streamline of Sentinel, again, which is Roger Bach Jr. And he's like, yeah, I got these new Sentinels that we can, track down rogue mutants out there, and they're not going to do as much damage. They can phase through doors. I can connect through them through my telepathy with my super duper strong helmet and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And then we wind up getting to see our heroes try to go out on a job trying to get a mutant, and the dude's completely scared. And then you get to see ex-members or other members of their team going against them, getting that same mutant. So they're battling against each other. And at the same time, you get introduced to this character here that is just a regular businessman, right? He's trying to hide his mutant powers, and they find out that he's a mutant. They're trying to capture him, and he goes out in hiding. And he goes and he reaches out to his wife and his son, and they have this big conversation. He's like, I never told you because I didn't want you to hate me for what I was. I wanted you to love me. And she's like, oh, it wouldn't have made a difference. I would have loved you, blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you find out is that the phone line is actually tapped, and the Orchis people are going to go after this guy. There's got to be a reason why this guy exists if he's being introduced as a new character in this comic book. And I thought that was very heart-wrenching, and it's just the ultimate betrayal to your husband, right? So that was so interesting. And then at the end of the comic, when you thought that, our Alpha Flight team is working for Department H and the Box Sentinels and stopping the mutants, you find out that they're working with the other side of the other portion of the Alpha Flight team that is helping the mutants. So I thought that was a great little twist. This book is definitely worthy. This book surprised me on all ends. I thought the art was good, the story was solid, and I loved how the original, few team members that consisted of the Puck and everybody else, they just kind of betrayed that group and went on over to them, and they're kind of keeping it a secret. So yeah, good stuff. If I had to rate this book, I'm gonna rate this one an A+. I exceeded all expectations. One of my favorite books of the week. So there you guys have it. There are the newest number ones that I read for the week. What do you deem worthy and not worthy? And if you guys love my content, I'm going to leave you more content right here. In fact, one of these videos is my newest comic book haul for the week, where it shows you everything I picked up at my LCS. And of course, guys, as always, keep buying, keep collecting, but most importantly, always read those comics. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Bye.